Question, grown up to grown up. If you're pregnant or your person is pregnant and the doctor informs you that your child is going to be born with special needs, so you have two options, to keep it or to terminate. What would you do? Now, don't answer that question. I'm reading yesterday's feedback and it's crazy. Some of these parents end up having a lot of blame games. You're the reason this child is here because I wanted to get rid of this baby. You refused. Some men are walking out because of what they term as too much. Others stay and blame the women. Others want to marry a second wife. Others are scared of the wife getting a second born because they don't want the child to come up like the first. And it just got me to think, because it should be one of the questions as well. If you and I get pregnant, if we get pregnant, and the doctor informs us that we're going to get a baby with special needs, are we keeping the baby or not? Couples are fighting because they're conflicted, because one wants the baby, the other one doesn't. Add this to a list of the questions to ask your potential other.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where on this planet you are. My name is Ebi Weyime, and I am from Kenya. But most importantly, I am child-free. What you're watching right now is a video that I did in 2023. I was driving from Mombasa to Diani. That is a place in Kenya, in case you do not know. I was driving to a very beautiful island, so I recorded it for you guys. Oh, maybe not for you, but then I found this video and I thought it was really nice. But anyway, let's get to our topic for today. So this lady is asking a very, very important question, like, would you allow yourself to terminate a pregnancy if you knew that that the child might not be very healthy, or the child might be born disabled? And actually, I have a little story time, or a little example of something very similar that happened to someone that I know. A few years ago, my friend was pregnant. She was 6 months pregnant, and one day she woke up in the morning and she realized that she was bleeding. So as a pregnant woman, or even if you're not pregnant, you know that it's a bad sign if you start bleeding while you're pregnant. You should not be bleeding at all. So she woke up and there was a bit of blood. She was bleeding. So she rushed to the hospital. At that point, her husband was working away from the city that she was at, so she could not depend on her husband. So she literally drove herself to hospital. She was telling me because of Nairobi morning traffic, she had to wait, she had to sit in traffic for about an hour for her to get to hospital. So she gets to hospital. She's admitted immediately because, of course, that's an emergency. But then she said that she realized that the nurses kept asking her when her husband would arrive, because her husband was in another city or another town, and she had to drive back, which was going to be a few hours until he arrived. So she kept wondering, why do you keep asking for my husband? Just tell me what's going on. And they're like, no, we have to wait for your husband. So finally, the husband arrives about 1 or 2 hours later. The husband arrives, and before she knows it, the husband is like, yeah, I've already signed the papers, and there's just an injection they're going to give you, and everything will be okay. So she didn't ask too many questions, because again, if your husband is there and your husband has said that everything is going to be okay, it's just an injection, you don't think about it, right? Wrong. So it's 9 months later, they have a son. It's a beautiful, bouncing baby boy. The child seems fine. There's nothing wrong with the child. Until about 3 years later, when the child is now joining a daycare, and they're just the same way that you take your child to a daycare is the same way that she did with her son. But the first thing that the person at the daycare, or the lady at the daycare, said was, "There's something wrong with your child." And my friend, of course, was offended, just like anybody else. You don't want anyone to tell you that there's something wrong with your child. So she was actually offended. She's like, "No, I am pulling out this child from this school because the person at the daycare said that there was something wrong with my child, because the child was really not responding, or was really not acting the same way that you would expect a 3-year-old to act." Actually, the child was about 3 to 5 years old. I am not very sure how old exactly the child was, but it was definitely not more than 5 years old. I'm child free. I don't have a child, so I really don't know about the ages. But basically, the child was old enough to start going to a daycare, not really a daycare, but what do they call that place where the children start learning, like basic reading and writing? So it's not official school, but it's school. Guys, I'm child free. I don't know what they call these things. Anyway, so let's continue with the story. So my friend goes back home and she is livid. She's like, "Oh my God, you cannot believe what the lady at the daycare told me about our son." So now she's talking to her husband, and the husband is like, "What's up? What's wrong?" And then she explained what she was told with the daycare lady who said that there was something wrong with the child. And she was like, "Do you think there's anything wrong with our baby?" And she later on confessed that deep down, she thought there was something wrong, but she kept ignoring, because mark you, this was her second child. So she already has a first child. She already knows how, the kind of milestones the child needs to have at a particular age. So she did not say it with this one, but she was really not thinking anything was wrong. So for example, you could call the child, you call the child by their name. So say the name was Marquez. You keep saying, "Marquez, Marquez, Marquez," and you'll keep shouting the name, but the child will not look at you. So my friend kept thinking that maybe the child was just being rude, because you're shouting his name, but he's just focused on one thing. So if he focuses on the TV, he will keep watching the TV. It's almost like he cannot hear anything else once he focuses on one thing. So after my friend told the husband this new information, quote unquote, after she gave this new information, the guy was like, or the husband was like, maybe she could be right. And at this my friend is confused, because what do you mean the teacher could be right? Then he had to sit her down and explain to her what happened the day that she was bleeding while she was pregnant. He explained to her that on that day when she went to hospital, her water had broke. And if your water breaks and you're not yet ready, at about 6 months, definitely they could have delivered the child, and the baby would have been in what do they call it? NICU, the newborn place for the babies. So the baby would have survived. But the other option was she would have been given an injection, and it would stop the leakage, or it would stop the water from leaking. However, they did say that there was a chance that the child could be autistic because of that injection. So they said that either the child will be autistic or the child may not walk. Can you imagine? The dad had all this information before that injection was done. And on top of that, so the risks were either the child could be autistic or the child may not be able to walk. So because the child was about 4 or 5 years and the child could already walk, the dad did not think that there was anything wrong, because he was like, well, the child can walk, which means the injection did not do anything, until the child went to school. And then that's when the teacher was like, okay, there's something wrong with your child. So he basically confessed that he knew about this whole thing from the beginning. He knew that something might be wrong with the child because of the injection. Because the other option was they deliver the baby, then the baby goes into the newborn section, the NICU, or is it ICU? No, it's not ICU. It's the NICU. So the infant place for the babies. So they call it the nursery, right? Okay, I don't know what they call it, but they are like, either deliver the baby or get the injection. So the man decided to get the injection because they did not want to risk delivering the child at 6 months. And you could just see the look on my friend's face, even when she was saying it. This was not something that she loved. She did not want to raise a child with special needs. I asked her, if you had been given the choice, what would you have chosen? And she said, I would have risked it. I would have risked delivering the baby and not make it than have a child that is autistic. But here we are. So the question is to you. If you knew that your child would turn out autistic or would turn out to be a child with special needs, would you terminate your pregnancy? Let me know in the comments. I really love interacting with you guys. Let me know what you think. Is this something that you would have done, or it's something that you wouldn't? And with this whole situation, do you think that the husband was justified to not inform the wife? Because he said that the wife was in a very stressful situation at that point. So he did not want to add more pressure. That's why he made the decision on behalf of my friend. And mark you, my friend's husband lives away from, he doesn't really live at home. He works away from home, which means my friend is the one that's taking care of this child 24/7. And mark you, they have another child already. So is this something that you would have chosen if you are in this position? Or what do you think? I would really love to know what you think in the comments. And I hope I will see you next time. Please remember to subscribe, and see you soon. Bye.